Good morning. Welcome to the Indy Boomer Show. I'm Mary Pat McKee, and I'm sitting here this morning with my good friend Jane Malkoff from Clarity
Care Advocates.
Thank you. She changed her name. That's why I knew it was Clarity. I like the word clarity. I think it's important. It's kind of like relevant, you know, having clarity on something, being relevant as a boomer. Anyway, speaking of boomer, you can pick up Indy Boomer at any. Jane's just got me all messed up this morning. But anyway, you can pick this up at any Kroger or Marsh store in Indy and the surrounding areas. This is the May issue. Getting ready for the July issue. Working on it right now. But this one is still in the stores. We did something new this time. We did an insert. So if you open to the middle of the magazine, you will see our new section called Boomer Plus.
I love it.
She loves it. And the reason she loves it is because she works with a lot of boomers who are helping their parents navigate their way through, the different things that are involved when your parents are no longer safe at home or need to move on or maybe stay in their home as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So anyway, the Boomer Plus section is about boomers helping their parents. So you'll find a lot of information in there that you may even want to keep for yourself later because eventually we will be seniors, I guess.
That's right.
But we're not talking about that today. Hopefully, yes, that's correct. But what we do want to talk about, and this is what Jane has written about for the July issue coming out, July 1st, it'll be in the stores, is about the difference between, there's home health, there's non-medical home health, which is, in my mind, lighthouse keeping, giving people baths, different things. I'm going to let you explain. And then we have the skill side, which is really nurses.
Yes.
So tell us why somebody would do one versus the other.
Yes. When it comes to care in the home, when you're seeking an outside service, it might be a little more than the family can do.
Right.
Or they might be living far away from family, or they have a health setback and they want to put services in the home. Basically, in the state of Indiana, you have two licensed options to get a licensed company in your home.
Okay.
In lay terms, we call one skilled and one non-skilled. A skilled service typically requires a physician's order, and the physician will write an order for that service to come in. It's often covered under the insurance.
Okay.
Medicare is one of those insurances will cover this. It's short-term coverage for things that you need in your home.
So like if you had an accident or you broke something, that would
a hip replacement or a setback from a heart condition.
Okay.
The physician can write an order for home health care. You could get a physical therapist, an occupational therapist, a speech therapist, a social worker, a nurse's aide to come in to help with bathing a couple of times a week, a nurse to come in to help look at things. You could have a wound, or you could need help getting your medicine set up, or you could have a new medicine like that needs blood checking, but it's temporary.
Right.
These skilled services are a temporary service, often covered under insurance, requiring a physician's order. They don't cover the day-to-day basic necessities of your activities of daily living.
And this is
so the state of Indiana also licensed companies that have more than 5 clients. You have to be licensed to provide something called personal services. And in Indiana, they call that a personal service agency, and they are non-skilled. They provide assistive services. So, like you mentioned, they can assist with bathing, assist with grooming, assist with companionship, assist with light housekeeping, assist with meal prep. They can run errands. They can do anything that is in a service plan. And the state of Indiana requires there be a service plan, a care plan that's followed. But you don't have to have a physician's order, and the family can set that up with whatever licensed agency they feel most comfortable with. And so you can have those services covered either privately, and the average rate in Indiana is $20 per hour to have that service in the home. Long-term care policies can cover those services as long as you meet the terms of the policy, which is usually that you have to meet 3 out of 5 activities of daily living. So meaning you may need help feeding, you may need help dressing, you may need help bathing, and so a long-term care policy can cover. VA benefit can cover, so if you or possibly your spouse were active during wartime, you can have a VA benefit that could help offset those expenses.
Does Medicaid never come into that?
Medicaid does come into play for those services. So a lot of times you need advice from someone like myself who may then also say, well, you probably also need an elder law attorney to help you factor this out. But there are Medicaid services that can cover the skilled side and the non-skilled side.
Right. Okay.
So Medicaid can cross that and help pick up those services. Medicaid would never be a service that you could get 24 hours a day,
Okay.
but you could get 4, 6, 8, sometimes even 12 hours a day if you meet the criteria.
Okay.
So Medicaid can be a source for both types of home care services, but it's a process. And you have to go through that process. But once you get through the process, if you think
You mean
have
for the approval
for the
for
approval,
Medicaid?
mhm.
Okay, all right. You know, a couple things you've said that I was not familiar with. I think it's important for people to take notice of.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, I didn't know that they had to be licensed in the state of Indiana, the non-skilled
Yes.
home health care. Did not realize
Approximately, I'm going to say we're pushing probably close to 10 years that the state has made that a rule to be
Okay.
licensed.
That's good
But
to know. I'll
it's
pass it
common
along.
because it's common. It's not that you should have known that. It's common. People don't know that. For years, we just called it a companion service.
Right.
Or you know of individuals that are doing it, but if they're doing it for 5 or fewer people, we don't think of it. They don't have to be licensed.
Okay.
The benefit to going with and these organizations, skilled and non-skilled, can work together. You can have your insurance covering your skilled services in your home, but the
Right.
needs are greater, so you also implement these ongoing,
Right.
daily, chronic need services this other
Right.
way.
Okay.
But we used to call them companion services, and the state didn't require licensing for that. But there's always people who aren't doing the right thing. And
Yeah,
so we
unfortunately.
needed to make rules and regulations to protect people from being exploited, from people coming into their home and maybe abusing their funds and so forth.
Or them,
That's
for that
right.
matter.
Mhm.
You know, that's one thing, Jane, we should have started out with, or I should have started out explaining to folks that you are a nurse practitioner, which I always have a hard time saying that word, in geriatrics. So she specializes in geriatrics, older people, and has a huge bank of resources. So if you are just starting to get into that area of helping your parents, or maybe even helping yourself, you know, Jane is one that you need to call to kind of help direct you. Don't you give a free call?
Yes, we
Yeah.
give everybody that's trying to figure out what possibly could Clarity do for me.
Right.
It's difficult to understand what we do because there's so many people with different needs, different personalities, different family dynamics. So we say, give us a call. We'll spend 30 to 60 minutes on the phone with you. And if you end up not needing us, you'll at least know what is the next step you could take that would help you in your situation.
I mean, you need to do it. So, hey, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back. We're going to talk about some differences with some of the different facilities that people may go into. So, we'll be right back. Thanks.
You know, when Margaret and I decided to sell the old estate here, we had only one choice in signage. Logan Street signs and banners. Conveniently not located on Logan Street anymore, but rather located on 10th Street on the south side of Noblesville. Well, we sold the old beauty, and we were able to buy this wonderful estate. And we had so much money left over, I was able to buy this beautiful 1968 Dorado Cadillac for Margaret. Only 472,000 miles. Margaret loves it because it's got those big seats and that heavy-duty suspension to support her svelte frame. Next time you're looking for signs or banners, call old Jim at Logan Street Signs and Banners, 773-7200. Conveniently not located on Logan Street anymore.
And we are back. Welcome back. Mary Pat McKee sitting here this morning with Jane Malkoff from Clarity Care Advisors. Jane's explained, Jane, what it is that Clarity does. I mean, why would somebody call you?
Somebody would call us because they need a navigator in this sort of sea of options, confusion, emotional times. Parents' lives are changing. Maybe their spouse's life is changing. They have healthcare crises. They don't know where to go next. It can be anything from sorting out medical options, care options, financial options, pointing you in the right direction to people who can help you with those things, making sure you have the best company for what your problems are at your fingertips instead of having to go through an example. Somebody came to my office and he and his loved ones had gone to 12 facilities the day before. And I said, if you had called me the day before you did that, 10 of them would have been eliminated because there would have been no way that it would have they would have taken her,
right,
his mother. And so it's just a way to kind of help you streamline and get the plan of care in place quicker with the right pieces and less stress.
Okay, well, I always like to give my testimony. When my folks we found weren't safe anymore, it was time for them to move from their condo into a facility. We called Jane, and not only did Jane help navigate, but Jane told us a lot of things, questions we would have never thought to ask in the situation. I mean, we knew we had the Medicaid. We'd heard about the VA aid and attendance for helping to pay for everything, but there was just a lot of things that we didn't even know. And we wouldn't have known until we stumbled upon them. Right. And then typically when you stumble upon something, you have to make quick decisions that maybe aren't always the best decision.
That's right. And I think what's wonderful about being able to reach out to people in your community, whether it's somebody like Clarity or even a neighbor who's been through the same thing,
right,
is that often it's the crisis that breeds the decision making.
Yes.
We all think we're good planners, and then we're in a crisis and we're like, why didn't we do this, or why didn't we plan ahead? But the truth is, the crisis often breeds our next steps. But when you are in a situation, sometimes the people around you are just one point of view. It could be just your physician's view, or just the nursing facility's view, or just your cousin Wanda's view. You know what I mean?
Anybody's
it
view.
Could be anybody. And what you probably would feel better about is if you could talk to somebody who said, we understand all of these options and how to help you juggle it and work through it, and that's what we do, and help you have that clarity around it.
Yeah, and that's again the reason for the name of the company, Clarity. Now, you guys do that. You also offer home health, or unskilled, is that correct?
Yes, personal service agency, non-medical home care.
Non-medical home care. I want to say it the proper way because I don't want to give people the wrong impression. But in the first segment, we were talking about skilled versus non-medical home health. Couple things, many things that Jane told me I was not familiar with. But one thing in particular is that the skilled nursing only is, if Medicaid's going to pay for it, then it's only a short-term.
Or Medicare. It could be Medicaid, Medicare, or other insurances could pay for your medical or skilled home care.
Okay.
And you can pay for it privately. It's very expensive.
Yes.
And it's for people who want to be at home, but their level of care is above and beyond what a personal service agency. Right. And there aren't a lot of companies that do that privately, but we can guide people to the handful of companies that do that and do that well. The majority of the skilled home care companies are insurance-based companies, and they take the Medicare for short-term needs. Medicare is short-term no matter how you look at it.
Is that the 100-day
Yeah,
thing?
Up to 100-day per particular incident for rehab in a facility, which is short-term. But in your home, it's based on your level of need and getting. So there are limits to what it can do. But you can have that in and out of your home throughout a year as you need it or as you decline, based on the number of days of support you can have under that particular diagnosis and whether or not you're making progress. But it's short term. It's not ongoing. It's not your activities of daily living. How do I get breakfast on the table? How do I get their med reminders in them? But you can combine that with your personal service agency to help make that happen for your daily. But then what happens too is sometimes you don't have the resources maybe to put all the care that you need in the home, even if you combine the short-term medical type with your long-term non-medical type. So sometimes you need to look at support outside of the home, and that could be maybe assisted living or a long-term care facility.
Yes.
So sometimes you can find a campus that has all of that. It has a Medicare short-term rehab. It has your long-term chronic illness. You stay there and live.
Right.
Or it has assisted living. And assisted living can be used on either side of it. It can be used where you might go there first.
Right.
Or you might graduate out of maybe the long-term care or the Medicare rehab and go to assisted living as you get more independent. So you can do that. Now you have assisted living would be maybe somewhat like we see with the non-skilled medical, in that it's really,
that's what it reminds me of.
It's not where you have a lot of high acuity. Most assisted livings, not all. So you have to ask good questions, and that's what we're good for, is to let you know which buildings do what. But most assisted livings have requirements for you to be eligible there, meaning you have to be able to move and transfer with just one person instead of two, and that you shouldn't need to use any type of lift to have to transfer from place to place. Some of them want you to be able to feed yourself. Some of them even want you to still be able to get up and walk around. So it's not as complex. And you would choose the long-term care unit for long-term, non-acute, meaning it's going to continue on. The problems will continue on. There's no chance for improvement, and you might be in long-term care. And they can handle high complex medical situations like continuous feeding tubes, wound care, insulin injections, things like that in the nursing facility and long-term care.
So obviously it's very important to determine whether assisted is correct or skilled. But if you're at home and you're having skilled people coming in, there's a good possibility that if you do decide to go into a retirement community, that you'd want to go into that skilled side. Is that correct? Or it's hard to say.
It is really very hard to say.
Okay.
One of the things that we're skilled at is doing those assessments, because families get a lot of misinformation and they assume that that's the next step.
Right.
Or that the place where Aunt Mary went is the same place they want Mom to go, but they don't realize that Mom's needs aren't going to match where Aunt Mary went that they loved.
Everybody's different.
And so there has to be discussion around that. And then options. What are your options? How do you avoid looking at 12 different places when somebody could easily say these would be your first 3 to look at, based on community feedback, the Indiana State Department of Health's website that gives you their last 3 survey scores and a list of all the complaints, an assessment of all of their needs, and then looking at what is their hopes and desires for their life. Because the main thing we have to remember, even though the needs are changing, this is a person still on the continuum of life.
Yes.
And so they're going to have preferences and needs, whether they can express them, that family can help us understand so that the best fit is found.
Right. And I do think it's also important to know that Jane is not associated with any facilities in any way. So you are totally objective in her advice that she can give you.
That's right. We are advocates first. We're out there. We are out there to help and support. There's no kickback.
And you've been doing it a long time.
Yeah. Well,
we try not to talk about long times on the show here, so.
Well, I'm only
but she's
27.
experienced. She's only 27. That makes me 28, so that's all good. Anyway, hey, we want to thank you for watching Time Has Flown once again. Hey, don't forget you can pick up a picture. You can pick up a copy of Indy Boomer Magazine at any.
With this great picture.
With this great picture. Jane really likes a picture this time. Anyway, at any Marsh or Kroger store in Indy and the surrounding counties. Also, don't forget to watch Boomer TV on Sunday mornings at 10:30 with Patty Spittler on Wish TV. Got a new show coming up this week. It should be pretty good. So, hey, thanks for watching us, and we will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.